Right, that's the disclaimer over. Now, I've seen a lot of videos on these Chinese diesel heaters. Probably 90% of what I've seen is incorrect or just total rubbish. People think they know what they're talking about and they don't. So I'm going to do a complete strip down of this one. If you need to decoke it or something like that, or change the glow plug, I'm going to cover it in this and subsequent videos. But this video is mainly going to center on the total strip down of every nut and bolt. So to start off, you've got your heater here. I'm not going to go through removing it from wherever you've got it installed in this video, because I don't know where you've got it installed. But anyway, just briefly, you've got to disconnect your pipes, undo the bolts. This is going to be normally underneath the vehicle somewhere, and then you'll be able to remove it. Just disconnect your wires as well. So once you get it out on the bench, you can't do this with it in the vehicle or wherever you've got it installed. So you start off by removing the end cap. This lifts up and slides out. I'm going to set that to one side. Right, this is what you've got inside. You've got the control unit there. You've got this, which goes off to the temperature sensor. This is measuring the temperature of the main cylinder. This is your glow plug. You need to treat that with respect, particularly if you want to reuse it, because they're very fragile. They're only ceramic and you can easily break them. First thing you need to do is to remove the controller. There's one screw holding the controller, and then it just lifts up. Take these plugs out. Don't worry too much about numbering them, because they'll only go back one way round anyway. And there's a little grommet in here. If you slide it up, the whole unit comes out together. Okay, we'll just set that to one side for now. Right, this is the wire to your glow plug. This is the wire to the fan. The fan serves two purposes, and this is your thermostat wire. So now you'll be able to lift it out of its bottom casing like that. So we'll set that to one side as well. Right, now we've got it out of its bottom casing. Perhaps if I turn it that way, it'll be more beneficial. Yeah, you've got your glow plug. You're going to need a few tools to do this. If you're going to take the glow plug out, you've obviously got to buy a spare one. Now when you buy a spare one, you'll need a socket with a little groove in here so it fits over the wire. I mean, you can cut the wire off and take it out with a normal socket, but you won't be able to get the new one back in unless you cut the wires. If you're really desperate, you could cut the wires and rejoin them, but there's no need, just for the sake of an extra £1 or euro or whatever, and buy the proper tool. So that slides over the wires like that. Slides over the wires. And you just put a screwdriver or something in it. Just give it a gentle nip. Don't force it. And then gently unwind the glow plug. Okay, there's your glow plug. This one's in reasonable condition. Very often what happens is the ceramic all breaks away. Very often what happens is the ceramic breaks away from the glow plug, and it then stops being effective, because this actually glows red hot when your heater is starting. Now inside the chamber there's a little atomizer mesh. Now, you need to get that little mesh out, but we'll have a look at that in a little while. First thing you need to do is to remove the fan housing. So you've got 4 Allen bolts there that you need to undo to take off the fan housing. Yours might not be Allen bolts, it might be screws, who knows. They all vary a little bit. Right, there are your 4 little bolts. Just put them to one side and gently take off the fan housing. There's your fan. Serves 2 purposes: air over the cylinder to blow out your hot air, and the secondary purpose is for the this fan on the inside creates the air for the burn chamber. There's a little fan in there and it pumps out the air here, causes it to spin around in here and go into your burn chamber. So we'll just set that aside for a minute. Right, you've got 4 screws which hold the burn chamber in. You need to remove those. Right, now there's always one, isn't there? This one seems to be seized in, so I'm going to have to drill it out. Right, okay, I've drilled that off now, as you can see, and now I can remove the burner. This slides out on the grommet like that. There you've got your burner. It's fairly clean. Now there's a little bit of soot. There's a little bit of soot in the burn chamber. So I'll clean that up, but you can see it's been burning pretty well there. It's been burning on the end where you want the heat. There's no soot build up there. I've got it set up pretty well. You've also got another little gasket here. Just need to take that out for now. Now your heat sensor will come out if you lift this spring out. Let's do that. Just tease that out. There we go. That lifts up, and your little heat temperature sensor. It's only a surface temperature sensor. Comes out. And we'll plonk that back in. That's it. There's no screw joint or anything like that. It just sits on the surface and measures the temperature. So that's it as far as the burn chamber goes. I'm going to get that cleaned up. I'm going to get this bolt out, and then I'll be back. Right, there's your little atomizer screen. And stainless steel atomizer screen. Now you need to make sure that's cleaned out, because move this out of the way. Your diesel comes through this pipe into the atomizer screen, gets ignited by the glow plug, and then the vapor, ignited vapor, goes round the burner and comes out inside the burn chamber. I don't know if you can see in there. There's some soot or something in there. I need to get that cleaned out as well. Big lumps of carbon build up. That's going to restrict the flow of the gases to the burner. What there is in here is another little gauze mesh which also atomizes the diesel vapor out to the burner. Obviously once the burner's alight, it stays alight and the glow plug goes out, but your glow plug is just to light the diesel to start with. So if you're starting your diesel heater up and it's smoking a lot when you're starting it up, the chances are that either your filter and the diesel way is not clear through there, so all you're doing is just burning the diesel, or more likely is the glow plug is not getting hot enough. You might look at your voltage and think, oh, I've got 12 volts, but if you're not getting the current to the glow plug, then you're not getting enough heat in your glow plug to ignite the fuel. It will ignite eventually, and then the black smoke or whatever will go down. But if you're getting black smoke on startup, then either this hole is blocked, which is your air in to your initial burn stage. Right, I've got the burn chamber cleaned out. I did it with some brake cleaner and a toothbrush. So you want to get all of the soot out of there. Yours, if you're taking it apart to decoke it, yours is probably going to be worse than this one, because this particular heater was running quite efficiently. So anyway, that's the chamber cleaned out, so we can now start the reassembly. I've managed to get that screw out, and I've just run a tap down that hole so that I can put another screw in there, and that's all fixed now. Right, so we can get it going back together now. And what you want to do is get your little atomizer screen back in there where it needs to go. Okay, let's push it in. There you go. Alright, and then eventually we'll put the plug back in there. Right, so we're ready to go back in now. So how the burner works is the fuel comes in this pipe here, it gets into this little chamber here where the atomizer is, air comes in through this little part, that little hole there, and mixes with it. The glow plug warms up and sets the diesel on fire, turns it to a gas. The gas is then circulated round this chamber from the fan housing. Okay, that then blows through this. There's another little atomizer screen in there which you can't see unless I cut this in half, but there's another atomizer in there, and then that creates a burner here. It's like a little blowtorch. Once the diesel is warmed up and this is all glowing red as well, the glow plug shuts off and the burner is self-sufficient, if you like. It's its own heat keeps the flame going. But anyway, we can get that back in now. Get your gasket back in. So this is a reverse, obviously, of what we took out. There's a little shoulder on the gasket there, which lines up with the shoulder on the air intake. Sorry, it's not the air intake, it's the glow plug hole. So get your gasket in there, like that. Put your burner back in. This also obviously lines up with the glow plug hole. Right, slide that in. You might need to just jiggle your gasket a little bit to get it in position, otherwise it's going to hinder the screws if you don't. Right, now we can get the screws back in. No, you don't do it all quickly. Right, that's all tightened down now. Okay, that's the one I had to replace. Don't know if you can see it or not, but it's what looks like a crack, looks like a fracture there, but it's not. It's just a surface on the, so it's just a mark on the casting. I have inspected it. Obviously, if you've got a problem like that, you need to fix it, or you know, buy a new heater. They're cheap enough. This chamber here is the air chamber, okay, and the air in there is forced around into the inside of the burner from the internal fan. There's a fan, not this bit, there's a fan inside there which blows air, and it spins round and it comes rushing out of here in a circular motion, goes into the burner, and that's what burns it. So when you put your plug back in, make sure you put your grommet in properly, otherwise you're going to disturb the nice sort of circular pattern of airflow. So that's why these grommets are in there, so that this air flows nicely how it's meant to be. So we can get this back on now. Just put the gasket on. They'll only go in one way, so we can get that on there like that. What I will show you is, sometimes on a smaller heater, this is actually the burner gasket, but on a smaller heater, like on a 2 kilowatt, then it will have a smaller gasket in there, and only 3 holes. That's sort of how you can tell whether you've got a 2 kilowatt or a 5 kilowatt. Now some claim to be 8 kilowatt, I don't know. Whether they are, whether they aren't, they're all appear to be the same, although, you know, the housing, the cylinder does change in size. So anyway, we've got the gasket on there. This goes back on in reverse order to what we took it off. Set that on there nicely. Make sure your gasket is nicely lined up. You don't want any leaks in there, because it'll just upset everything. So we've now got 4 bolts to go back in. Now in real time, if you were just going to clean this out, once you've got it out of your vehicle, it only takes about an hour just to strip it down, clean it out and put it back together. So it's worth doing if you've been running your heater for a while, or even if you haven't been running it for a while and you've been running it too rich. Don't over tighten these, because the castings are not very good and it won't take much to wring the threads off. Right, okay, so we're back together to that stage now. We've now got the fan housing on. Make sure, spin it round, make sure you don't hear any noise from it in here, because if you get this slightly offset or the gasket's not quite in the right position, then you'll hear a sort of a clanking sound in there, which you don't want to hear. Okay. Now to put the glow plug back in, obviously that's just the reverse of taking it out. Just inspect it, make sure it looks okay. Any signs of trouble, get rid of it and get another one. Very careful when you're starting off the thread, you don't want to cross thread it. Get your little socket on there. Tighten it up just finger tight, and then just give it just a very small nick with a bar or a screwdriver or something like that. And then remember that this is the air chamber, so you need to make sure you take the time and effort to get this grommet back in. It can be a bit tricky, but it's got to go back in. Okay, just sort of go around it with a screwdriver or a bit of wood or something. Just make sure your grommet is back in and sealing that air chamber up. Okay. Right, we're getting somewhere now. See, there's not really anything to be afraid of. The good thing with taking these apart is there's no springs or anything that's going to fly out and go everywhere, and you're going to think, oh no, what do I do now? There's bits gone everywhere, because nothing's going to happen. So it can now go back in its casing. Okay, so it goes in. It goes in this way round. It will only go in one way round, so you're not going to get it wrong. Now what we want to do is to connect the control board back up. So we'll put the grommet back in here. There we go. Connect the fan, and goes to that one. The heat temperature sensor goes to the one on the bottom. The glow plug goes to this one. Go all the way around. Okay, make sure they click evenly. And the temperature sensor goes on this one. Okay, so you got temperature sensor to that one, glow plug to that one, and the fan goes on that one. Okay, and then just make sure your wires are tucked around there and pop it back in there and screw it back into position. Okay, just check that the grommet hasn't come out like it has in that one. Tuck your cover back under and just make sure all your wires are nicely clear, nothing's sticking out the sides or anything. Tuck your cover back under, make sure everything's nice and secure. Give the fan a spin, see if there's any knocking. Now in this case there is. So it's only because the case was loose, so I could hear a knocking on the fan. It's catching on the housing. Okay, right, that's it, all done, nice and clean. Air intake, fuel intake, burner, exhaust. Okay, right, that concludes this video on the rebuild, or the strip down and rebuild. Thanks for watching. As always, this video is only intended to be educational. It's not a how-to. If you copy me and something goes wrong, then that's your fault. I'm not responsible for what you're doing, but if you do it how I've done it and be meticulous about what you're doing, clean it up, get the gasket sealed correctly, then you won't have an issue. But anyway, that's just a little disclaimer saying that if you blow yourself up, it's not my fault. But yeah, thanks for watching.